City lights look cold. He counts the cost, bends his will. Stories traded, future sold. Whispers right our hesitations. Everything's negotiation.
Family life in Estolia stands apart from that of the Western world. Families here spend quality time together, making it a central part of daily life rather than a luxury or afterthought. Unlike in America, parents here are not forced to work multiple jobs just to afford basic necessities. Women may work when their children are young if, and only if, that is something they wish to do. Economic pressure does not dictate their choices. Even fathers, if they wish to remain at home with young children, are accommodated. When family matters above all other things, the priorities of a nation are inevitably different. What may never be fully measured is the effect these Estolian priorities have on children as they grow, especially when compared to those raised in the much more frenetic nations, where nearly everything centers on the pursuit of wealth. Lyra Luke Domain, Enscrito.
His travels unfolded exactly as Zeke had predicted. Angelica's father would continue to correspond with her, but he was grateful for the chance to focus his resources on his wife and children. Serenity's father begged him to erase his connection with his daughter as thoroughly as possible, and Misty's father did not care one way or the other, so long as he would never have to pay another dime to support her. Gregorio was uncertain how his meeting with Warren Griggs would unfold. Since he was listed as the father on Melody's birth certificate, he needed to be consulted. He waited in the lobby of a tall Newark office building, knowing that the upcoming interview with Willow, scheduled in 2 hours, would be the most difficult. His thoughts briefly drifted to that. Then he pushed the concern aside when an elegant secretary approached him.
Gregory Zacharian?
She asked. He stood and followed her into a large office, where a man with shoulder-length blonde hair rose to greet him. By now, after meeting her other husbands, Gregorio was hardly surprised. Each man seemed more striking than the last. Willow's taste had only become more refined with every marriage.
"Come on in and have a seat,"
he said, gesturing to a plush chair in front of his desk.
"You're Willow's brother-in-law?"
Gregorio nodded.
I was not sure if you would know who I was.
"I follow world markets. Once Willow mentioned her sister married one of the directors of Zakarian International, I kept track of the company and followed your success."
The man was full of himself, suave, smooth, and sophisticated.
"So, what can I do for you, Greg?"
he asked. Gregorio recognized the tactic, a business trick some men used, shortening a name without permission to create an artificial sense of closeness or to unsettle an opponent. It could provoke either irritation or a quick, superficial rapport, both to the initiator's advantage. The only effective response was to disregard it entirely and focus on his purpose.
As I understand it,
Gregorio said,
you are unhappy with your marriage and plan to terminate it in the very near future.
He allowed himself a brief smile before adding,
I made it my business to learn everything I could prior to meeting with you.
It did not hurt to let this man see who held the advantage in this discussion. Warren's eyes narrowed for a moment, then he shrugged and affected a casual air.
"What does it matter?"
I also learned that you are not Melody's biological father, and that you plan to dispute paternity and leave the marriage without any financial obligations.
"You appear to know it all. So why are you here?"
My wife believes her nieces should not remain in Willow's custody. As such, I have been speaking with the fathers of each of the girls to find out what it would take for my wife and I to adopt them.
"Melody isn't my daughter, so I don't give a damn,"
Warren said. Zeke had been inspired in what he did. Something about Melody had moved him to suggest this trip, and to propose that Gregorio and Wraith adopt the 4 girls. He followed Zeke's itinerary, trusting there was something to be gained from this conversation with Warren.
Do you know who Melody's father is?
"I can guess."
Warren replied, shrugging.
"Why the hell are you here?"
He repeated.
What can you tell me about Willow?
Warren gave a crooked grin.
"Take some arsenic, add some cyanide and strychnine, and sprinkle a little powdered sugar on top. with a side of red-hot sex. That's Willow.
How will she respond to my intention to adopt her daughters?
He laughed.
She'll milk you for every cent she can.
Standing up, Warren waited for Gregorio to rise.
After you see her, if you need my help, let me know. I was looking forward to having my own child, but I've been a stepfather to the other 3 for over a year. They deserve better.
He handed Gregorio a business card.
Here's my lawyer's card. Call if you need help.
The journey to the suburban neighborhood where Willow lived took about 40 minutes. Gregorio was grateful for the limousine and driver his cousin had arranged. If necessary, he could take the 4 girls with him immediately. He mulled over the conversation with Warren Griggs. He had apparently gained an ally in his efforts to get the children relocated to Estolia. The limousine was just pulling up to the house when the car phone buzzed. He answered.
"It is Zeke,"
came the familiar voice. Gregorio did some mental arithmetic. It was midnight in Estolia.
Is Wraith okay? Ben?
Zeke's reassurance was swift.
"Your family is fine. I knew with the strength of my calling that something disturbing would happen in the life of Willow Griggs. Above all, I felt it was critical for you to be there during the crisis."
What crisis?
"Griggs is on his way home. He will arrive at any moment. Wait until he arrives to approach the house."
Zeke hung up abruptly. Gregorio slowly replaced the phone, a quiver of unease racing through his body. What happened? The garage door slid open. A flashy red sports car pulled onto the driveway. Warren had arrived. Climbing out of the vehicle, Warren started up the driveway toward Gregorio. The polished man-in-control image from earlier in the day was gone. His long blonde hair was disheveled, as if he had been running his hands through it. When he saw Gregorio, he frowned. Then recognition dawned.
Greg?
His voice broke. He cleared his throat hastily and then said,
Willow was hit by a goddamn bus!
Gregorio was aware of a lanky, dark-haired and dark-eyed girl standing at the inner door. At the sound of her gasp of dismay, Warren turned and saw her.
Hell, Angel. I didn't mean to tell you like that.
Angel. That meant this was Angelica, Willow's oldest daughter. He had never met any of Wraith's nieces, but he knew that she corresponded frequently with Wraith. She looked from Warren to Gregorio. Her eyes widened, a barrage of emotions flickering, recognition, hope, and relief.
Uncle Gregorio?
He swiftly crossed the room and pulled her into a tight embrace.
I am here, Angel.
Another voice asked.
What's going on?
A younger girl stood in the doorway, long straight brown hair and green eyes twisting her fingers in the hem of her shirt. This must be Serenity.
Mom's had an accident.
Angel said.
Uncle Gregorio is here to help us.
The brown-haired girl blushed. Looking away, she mumbled,
The girls are in the living room.
In a couple of minutes, Gregorio was sitting with a toddler on his lap. Misty, cute, with strawberry blonde hair and enormous blue eyes. Serenity sat next to him, the red-headed 2-month-old baby on her lap. Angel sat beside her, her arm around her sister's shoulders. Gregorio finally broke the silence, turning directly to Warren with a steady look.
Will you please let us know what has happened?
The two men looked at each other for some time, before Warren finally looked at the girls and said,
Your uncle is here to bring you to your Aunt Wraith. Your mother was jaywalking downtown. She didn't notice that a bus was heading her way.
Angel's chin lifted and she locked her eyes onto Warren's. Her voice was steady, far too mature for her age.
Is she dead?
Serenity sucked in her breath at that question, her eyes darting from her sister to Warren to Gregorio. She gripped Gregorio's hand tightly when turning her attention back to Warren.
Yes, Serenity. Angel, your mother is dead.
Warren said. The words hung in the air. Angelica's jaw set in a way that reminded Gregorio far too much of her mother. Serenity's small body pressed close to her sister, silent but not weeping. Neither girl seemed to know whether to hold on or let go, their faces a mix of confusion, strain, and something like quiet endurance. Gregorio studied them for a long moment, recognizing a resilience that should not have been necessary, and resolved, quietly, fiercely, that he would give them the steadiness and peace that had always been withheld. He took in the girls, their smallness, the haunted steadiness in Angelica's eyes, Serenity's white-knuckled grip on her sister. In this quiet, Gregorio understood that by tomorrow his family would more than double in size. He was no longer just an uncle or an outside observer to their pain. These girls would soon be his responsibility, his daughters in everything but name. The weight of that promise steadied him. He would give them what they had been denied, a chance to rest, to heal, to belong.
Night falls soft on what we keep. Names and fortunes change.